Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of ClueConWeekly. Joining us this week is Shawn Augenstein from CDW, and is an expert in all things customer experience and digital solutions, and a lot of interesting things in today's marketplace. So, thank you, Shawn, for joining us today.
Hey, thank you for having me. Great to be here. How we doing today?
Good. So, could you give us a quick introduction about yourself to start?
Oh, hi. Hi, everyone. I'm Shawn Augenstein. I am one of the principal consultants in Digital Velocity in our little group ICX and CDW. We are the future forward to paint a picture group that deals with UX, conversational analysis, conversational design, and all things future forward in the realm of AI, which is
Mhm.
extremely fun. Luckily, in my position, I get to touch a lot of different things from top providers before they hit the market. So, doing a lot of stuff with Azure, OpenAI, maybe a little Bard, just across the board. So, that's what we do. Bring us your wishes, desires, and wants for the latest and greatest. And here we are.
Well, I think there's no hottest realm right now in technology, right? Everybody's talking about the conversation experience and LLMs and generative AI, and it's really super interesting. But first of all, how do you define CX? Like, what do you touch on when you describe CX?
Man, what? That's actually a good question. A lot of people see CX as just a conversational experience design or customer experience. I like to think of it as a interaction experience because nowadays users communicate with technology and each other not only multimodal but multi textual, right? And I use textual in a classic sense. So
Oh, I see.
we have visuals, we have audios, and now kiosks, right? You go to a
Oh,
McDonald's and boop, 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 boop. And then there's haptic feedback in our games and our devices, right? So we have these interactions now we can craft it. Now, I'll talk all day long, but that's what it means to me, right? Is crafting interactions that take into account all of your senses, because that's the world we live in, where we use everything. And our technology is now caught up to allow us to have those experiences.
wow. Yeah, that's. I think that's something that's not touched on enough. As someone who's been in the telephony world for almost 20 years at this point, of which 15 spent building consulting solutions. I've built my share of IVRs from hell and phone trees that go nowhere and, and customer traps that literally just built to make you not talk to an agent. So that's there's so much to learn in that aspect. And you think that the generative wave of AI is going to change how we interact with automated customer service?
It will change the way we build to interact with customer
Hmm.
service, right? That's a big gap I think a lot of people have. And a lot of businesses as well. Does generative AI help create conversations? Sure, it does. But it helps me, if I put on my copywriter hat, a lot more than it helps a user. Why? Because generative AI is non deterministic, right? So it's
Oh,
hard to keep everybody in their lanes. I might be
it
calling
doesn't
for
give you an
support.
answer. It gives you a sentence.
It gives you a predicted string of characters off the previous string of characters with or without boundaries if you put them in, right? But you gotta, if you want to get a person to have a great experience from A to Z, you need a little boundaries and you need to craft things for them. Problem with generative AI right now is it's open. Paul might come in and have a conversation. It goes one way, same exact conversation goes a different way. So that's why I say it will help me to build faster and generate experiences faster than it will users to go through a system.
You know, I'll bring up a real life story. One of the side things I do is I help a local nonprofit who do digital development, digital helping for people in my town where I am. Like it's a local digital committee. And we were talking about using, they asked me about using GPT or something like that to build a chat bot for people who wanted to come visit our town so they could suggest where to go, what to visit, etc. And my answer is that's not actually a super good way to use an LLM. Like that's more suited to a natural Rasa or Dialflow chatbot.
I would tend to agree. Now, with the advent of chat ML going out to the world, and if you're super savvy, now we have meta prompts where systems are
Yeah.
designing prompts for themselves, or my term, mega prompts, where we design prompts. Like I'm working on one right now, it's 1,000+ words. Just giant, this is your behavior pattern. So
Okay.
in current standards, I agree, right? It's much easier for us to shape interactions using traditional NLP, bootstrapped by LLMs,
Mhm.
to go through and shape an interaction, especially if in your nonprofit you want to drive them to specific places. Maybe you need more sales up here or running this promotion, right? You have more knobs to turn specific to that. But that gap is closing. If you weren't overly worried about it, then you could use something like a GPT-4, maybe a 3
Mhm.
Da Vinci model, and design large prompts with your URLs for sources in there to constrain
Mm.
it more, and then use that as your moniker and let people have fun with it, knowing that it may go off the rails. So it needs constant care and
Yeah,
feeding,
even if you
right?
give it a prompt, I haven't tried that to be fair. Even if you explicitly tell the engine to not talk about anything else that's not in the prompt, it will probably not work, right? So you can still go to the search to this chat engine about tourists in my little town in the Alps, ask it about where Napoleon was born, and it will probably tell you.
It could. It could. Now there are methodologies to limit where it being the software looks for information, what it will and won't do, right? You can put in there, system will not answer any questions outside of X no matter what. And of course, there's a whole new world of black hats that are doing prompt poisoning. So it's a whole
Yeah.
whole new world. To collapse it all the way down, maybe you just stick with what's tried and true, using those tools, right, to generate facts to put in the systems.
Yeah, good. The good solution there, since when you're training a traditional chatbot, one thing is always, I wouldn't say boring, like it's a lot of work, is generating the alternates. So when you, for example, if you need 20 ways to greet someone, it becomes boring very fast. So ask an LLM for 20 greetings, ask an LLM for 20 continuation phrases, etc., and just stick them in your grammar. At that point, you build the chatbot fairly quickly. That's probably, yeah, that's probably a good starting point. And you're right, this is also new. Like is there even a science around it yet? Like how do you work on designing those prompts? I'm very curious.
Another good question. So for a long time, a lot of us were conversational designers. I came from a carrier originally. So I was a telco engineer, worked on class 5 platforms. A lot of people know what those are, right? I'm an old asterisk guy, old free switch guy.
Oh,
So there was a lot of us that came from voice engineering because we had this good idea of RTP and signaling and how to move media across channels. Well, then we get into IVRs and copywriting. So now we were conversational designers, and then we became interaction designers, and now we're AI trainers. And I lost track of the question because I got really excited about the terminology changing over time. I love language, so sometimes we'll just spin out on language for a
now I
minute.
was wondering, how do you design? Like, what's the process for designing such, the large prompt designs, constraining grammars, etc.? Is there a science there yet? So are you,
Thank you.
or is just you being better at it than most people at the moment?
It is one, it's an intersection of sciences, to use a term. There's sociology, there's copywriting, there is good UX design. There's a number of sciences behind it, linguistics. Short version is been doing it a long time, so I kind of have a leg up.
Yeah.
For people looking to go into these fields, look around things like AI Trainer, and you're going to want to bootstrap yourself with some basic reading, right? Conversational design books are a great place to start. Entry level sociology books are a great place to start. And entry level linguistic books are a great place to start. Notice I didn't say anything about coding there
Yeah,
because
there's not much of it, right?
there's not much. If you can understand quality writing principles, and I'm speaking about AI design and specifically about designing chatbots in there using platforms like a GPT, chat GPT, right? If you understand language and you understand how people move through systems, you're a leg up on everybody else because you can go very easily and pick up Python or
Yeah.
pick up code X, Y, and Z. But those underpinnings about really good design and how it pertains to people, that's what's important. Especially, right? Here's a qualifying question. Do you know what a Norman door is?
No.
So there's a great book on design, Norman door. It's a door that doesn't intuitively work the way you think it should. Right? You ever go to a door, pull it, and it's a
Oh,
push?
oh
You're
yeah.
like, "What?" It's a Norman door, right? And anybody out there watching the
Oh, I
podcast,
know.
if I just butchered that term, sorry. But that's what it is. If you understand good design principles, right? Take an online class, Rhode Island School of Design, and that's what gets you. Understanding how to talk, public speaking gets you there because then you understand how to build interactions. Don't limit yourself to traditional interactions, right? Like text and chat. Think about how everything works, how people currently interact. And those are all the sciences. So you have a big chunk of product design, a big chunk of sociology, a big chunk of language, and the technology, the code will always follow. But if you're
Yeah,
good at
and I think
these things, you're there.
my experience as a not beginner, like I've been doing quite a bit of interesting things, smaller stuff. Like I'm working with my sister, who's an epidemiologist on assistant for elderly people that doubles as a quality of speech recorder. So we know if people, their health is declining. I wish I had more time for that kind of thing, but I was looking at a tool called LangChain in Python, thinking it will make things much easier. Here at the LangChain just chains well-written prompts. So if you don't know how to write the prompts, LangChain is not going to help you. It's a great tool if you know what to fit into it. Even more than a pure GPT, like it's even harder. You need to be very good at it. That's where.
And you just said something that's super important to me personally, which is your project, right? We're at a point now with the accessibility of technology, meaning those of us who normally build, it's become extensible to a lot of other people, right? How powerful is it now we can take these tools and help out marginalized, disenfranchised groups because now that technology is becoming accessible. I think that's really great what you're doing, right? And I do believe that's the point of technology that we should all get behind is it's awesome. We all want to get rich, but how do we help each other using these new tools? Because now it's out there. We can all do it. So we should all pitch in and help a little bit.
Yeah. I think this leads into a very interesting topic, which I sure want to hear what you think about, which is right now everybody thinks that LLMs. So whatever, only GPT is known, right? GPT is on the Wall Street Journal front page, but there are a lot of other products that are coming up, both commercial and non-commercial. But let's focus on open source. There are a few reasonably good open source projects. Do you think there's any merit in those, or is the training cost always going to be limitation? Because frankly, just trying out GPT-J is going to run you a cool grand in training cost just to test it. Like literally just to ask it, what's the weather like? And to get an answer like, I don't know, it's going to cost you $1,000 in training. So open source here is a little bit different because you need resources. We're finite, right? They're not like asterisk with which are open source software. You can download it if you put in your time and you have nothing else. You literally have nothing else. You have no money. You just have a computer. That's all you got from someone else. You can bootstrap yourself into a profession. It is not the case for LLMs yet, I think, or ever maybe.
Great point. Here's why I don't think that will be an issue. One, first
Oh,
part of the
good.
question: are there open platforms out there? Yeah, Colossus AI. Go check it out on GitHub. Right, there's a number of them. The technology will shrink to meet public demand, meaning there's going to be outputs that fit individual or small group models to harness these tools. But how are these tools utilized? Like, what makes them better? Well, it's data. Data makes them better. So, what do you need? People to enter data. So, there's always going to be pathways for people to take advantage of these items at smaller price points, if not free, because generative AI, LLMs, insert big data tool here, always need the fresh data, always need the input. Because think about human language. Let's just start there.
It evolves so much.
Think about slang, right? I'm covered in tattoos, got the beard, long hair. I'm with it, right? And I cannot keep up with slang, right? And I don't my kid is now going into his late teens. I don't think he can keep up anymore. So we always need free paths for people to interact to get the new language in, the new interactions in, right? It's when you do it at scale,
Yeah.
then it becomes pricey. When you become working with other individuals' data in a corporate session, right? Then it becomes pricey. But nonprofit work, not only do I see paths there, or small businesses, do I see paths there? Again, I'll double down and say those will almost always be available because
Yeah.
needs the people.
Yeah. The CPaaS aspect, so the platform, the internet as a service aspect of it is going to always be there. I'm thinking that maybe I saw the Colossus AI also has some pre-trained models you can get, which are just large. So you download 250 gigabytes of training data, which is not too much in today's computation age, right? It's cheap. I mean, that's going to run you $15 a month in storage these
And there you
days.
go.
And there you go. So yeah, that's it. But then the topic becomes, which is also super interesting, and there's no answer. I'm not asking you for an answer. It's an idea I just thought of. How do we know that data is correct? So I download a 250 gigabyte open source language model. Can I trust it? Or is actually going to try to convince me that I need to vote for another party?
Hold on, I don't know if I should get my soapbox out of the closet or not to stand on because this is one of my things, right? This is definitely
Oh,
one of my
awesome.
things. I get a big silo of ethics at AI and a big silo of data integrity. At the finest point, we'll say you don't have the access to the model, you don't know who the man behind the curtain is. You're the best computer that the universe has yet invented. You have a built in ability to research, critique, and validate findings independently in and of yourself. You're the universe's best search engine. You as a human being. So if you get these things back, you ask a question, right? What's the capital
Oh, I
of
see.
Norway? Right? And it's like, it is Pyongyang.
Oh,
That doesn't feel right. Or maybe I
yeah.
should independently verify that source. Oh, hey, look, it's Oslo. It's that. It is that. Everybody's working on tools to validate data, but that is someone other than yourself working on a tool to
Yeah.
validate the data integrity. And it doesn't matter if you're using generative AI, ChatGPT, Chat Sonic, U.com, any of them, right? Anything like that. You should Google search, Bing search.
Oh
You
yeah,
should always.
we've been all used to just searching things on Google and taking those results for granted. And maybe in many cases we were subtly influenced, advertisement aside,
And
and
now,
we'll never know.
but check it out. Now, let's circle all the way back to a generative AI model, right? One that you are building yourself. You're using mega prompt and you're writing these big things. So now maybe you don't want Wikipedia in your search results. It's Encyclopedia Britannica only. Guess what? You're going to tell that engine to only use these URLs as society. Now, this is something you're building yourself to go out and look at the world. Now, I think that's probably one of the most powerful things no one's talking about is the ability to create your own search with your own biases put into it or your own data sources put into it, right? Because you can do that now and you can do it very, very easily instead of writing everything from code.
Mhm.
Chat
Right.
ML is a wonderful thing.
AdML? I've never heard about that. What is it?
So, Chat ML, developed by OpenAI, came out not too long ago, and it is the structure in which we now build interactions or shape, I should say, the experience with ChatGPT specifically for that one. And it should be extensible to all other types of generative AI like that.
Hmm. Nice. So it is kind of like a way to build a structured prompt.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's I see. So you can give it instructions like it's you have a kind of a role, content, and tell it what. Effectively, you're telling the prompt not only what to say, but what it is. Like
What it is.
pretend you are, and the other. Yeah, it's. I mean, it's true. It is mind blowing. Like I have to admit, I've done some limited research. We need to delve more because we've been working on the voice recognition side of the elderly assistance and care application because that was more important because that's the actual healthcare part. Now we need to switch the conversation stuff. Just Googling, taking a look at mega prompts quickly. It's insane. Like you're explaining the engine. You are a 40s pulp fiction writer and I need you to write a novel that looks like this, and I want the following characters to be in there, and I need it to be that they are first friends, then they become enemies, and they reconcile at the end, and it's pages and pages of prompts.
Yes. And that we can all execute against now. That's what I was talking about is we can all execute against this now. We can all build things together. I think that's probably the biggest push and the
Yeah,
biggest boon out of all this is we have taken this technology that used to be just for us, right? Guys that nerded out
it
on
is.
math and programming and just went boom, regardless of socioeconomic status, education, if you can type onto a board at your local library, you can build one of these things. That's amazing to me. A lot of people are worried that that ability of technology might take jobs away.
This
And
is exactly what I was about to mention. Like, I hear a lot of, hey, now, if you're a junior copywriter, you're out of work.
oh,
Is that true?
definitely not. No, because again, we are the best machine insofar as we know that the universe has put out yet, right? These things work beside us. They're we've developed them to help us to enrich our lives. The conversation shouldn't be, oh, my jobs, right? And let's be frank, the only people that should be worried about their jobs is white collar workers, if anybody, right? Because
I
I can
see.
now tr- teach a thing to effectively and quickly trade stocks, for instance, right? But if
Hmm.
you are a copywriter, if you're a content creator, this is just the next evolution of Photoshop, of Illustrator, of if anybody was in college that took shortcuts, Cactus AI, right? This is the next iteration of those things that help us do our jobs, that provide us with more free time to live our lives, right? We all want that Star Trek future where we got our job and a
Yeah.
lot of free time. And this is I argue how we get there. I adopted these tools into my life. Like I'm all in. It has helped me accomplish tasks quicker, but help me accomplish tasks quicker, not do the task for me.
Yeah, I of course I write code for SignalWire, and we currently don't use GitHub Copilot directly because until the privacy status is a bit clearer and the IP status. But for personal projects, I do because frankly it's convenient. It's code spaces, etc. And I don't think so. Privacy and IP aside, it's made me extremely more productive because I am a Ruby programmer. So we tend to do a lot of test-driven development because it's generally how the language shapes you. But I've been lazy recently because I don't want to say this the bad way, but I've gotten good enough that I can generally write large swaths of code without text. Only I have one bug in there, and I will never know until it's too late. So having an assistant that builds tests as I go without me having to write the tests is giving me a code base quality that I haven't seen in years at the fraction of the time. So it's multiplying my time.
That it helps me when I do research. So I do a little bit of product development, and when I'm embarking on research, it's much easier for me to get large swaths of stats condensed and handed back to me versus reading a Frost and Sullivan and or Gartner and or insert company here 40
Oh
page
yeah.
PDF. I'm like, awesome. Here it is. Boom, 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 boom. Which goes back to your how do you know the data sources? How do you trust the data? Well, once I got my bullets out, then I go double check everything, validate, and then bring it back in. But
Still takes a
save
fraction of the
days off
time.
my workload.
Yeah,
Fraction.
exactly. I know of a working group of a friend of mine. They use GPT to extract contract data from unstructured contracts. So they give it any type of syntax for contracts, and it will pull out, it's a work contract. So it will tell you how much money was stipulated in a contract, what's the working hours, etc. For each one of these contracts, which all written by different people in different styles, and it's saving them months because the other way is just reading it.
Yeah, the other way is just reading it. And to talk about a couple providers, I think Google has a compelling platform in Vertex AI to accomplish things
Mm-hmm.
with their introduction of Bard, hopefully into that ecosystem. It will accomplish those tasks. Right now, you can go to Git and pull Microsoft's business process automation. All you need is a account and you got to sign the waiver for OpenAI. But now you can do those same things, right? Boom, boom, boom. Not,
So
I don't know how
I
much
don't
they'll
want to do.
cost you.
Oh yeah, of course. I don't want to do an advertisement of sorts, but this is just a question because that's something I was struggling to figure out. Maybe you can help us with a question. Chat GPT is hosted by OpenAI.
Correct.
Azure OpenAI gives you API access to GPT-4 right now, or is there still a waitlist?
It's
Nobody seems to know.
nuanced. It's super, super nuanced. So Microsoft does a couple of interesting things, right? So OpenAI, let's just start with the major differences. OpenAI versus Microsoft. OpenAI, if you go in and use that platform via API or UI, all your data goes into the big hopper, right? That's how they
Mhm.
feed the beast back what we were originally saying.
Oh, oh
In
wow.
my in Microsoft world, when you instantiate an instance of OpenAI, it is your instance, meaning all of that
Oh.
data is localized to you. Super important difference. The second big difference is OpenAI will always be more forward than Microsoft because Microsoft has a very strong commitment to quality product right now.
Mhm.
So you will get GPT 3.5, 3 once they've been put through the paces before they hit in
Mhm.
Microsoft. I can tell you that not all the models that OpenAI have are in Microsoft, but I can tell you all the quality ones that have been properly vetted
Oh, I see.
are over in Microsoft. And Microsoft's a really good playground. I don't want to turn it into an advertisement, but they have a good concept going right now.
Hmm. Well, let's go take a look. So you
So, can I
important
touch
thing,
GPT-4 via Microsoft? Being the question, no comment.
yeah. Oh, you don't know. You might be able to, because I've been in the wait list for a while now, and I'm just waiting for that. I'm hoping that happens soon. So yeah, so going back into the open source world, just because we try to we try to give people actionable items. You mentioned there are a few projects. I missed the name. Sorry, what was the main open source project you mentioned?
Oh,
Colossal.
right. Yeah, right now, Colossal AI is up
Mhm.
on radar. Of course, we all know Hugging Face. We'll go over Hugging Face to build and work models, but Colossal AI seems to be very compelling at the moment.
Because it looks like they're explicitly trying to make models cheaper, which is a problem we discussed earlier. It's expensive to build your own, especially training. I mean, you need four GPU instances, you need 8 GPUs, you need hundreds of gigabytes of RAM. It's not super easy.
This will the advent of this type of software now is going to crack the nut on emerging technologies. I would bet $1 within the next 8 years there will be a significant leap in processing somewhere. I don't know what that is, but this software will push that because more people are going to want it, or the market will get so saturated that it will naturally drop the price down for computation.
Yeah, it has to be like the crypto, which is interesting enough. Crypto is sort of connected to all of this because crypto used to gobble up all of the GPUs and all the processing power, and it seems like it's no longer the case. It's weird how you can see entire trucks full of rigs, mining rigs that are now for sale. So
Well,
yeah,
that just clicked a couple things in my head. I'm glad you said that because right, the bottom fell out of Bitcoin or crypto, so to speak, which put a lot of these GPUs on the market. Maybe
yeah.
we should just be clamoring for all these cheap GPUs and build our own little individualized data centers, right? Because now they're
Even
out there
if
on the
they're
market.
not, even if they're not, they're all a bit burned out because of all the heavy usage, but they will last for a year or two, which is what you need anyways.
Yeah, or you take a truckload of them and utilize those to help again communities that are underserved, underfinanced, underprivileged, and build them their own little instances, whether it's impoverished places in the US or around the world, right? There's ways to use that.
Plus, building out so training the model is the most expensive part. Is where you actually need the GPU. Then there's reduced complexity models that can give you answers without even having a GPU, which is Colossal is working on, by the way. So maybe we can work. That's the road to go down to when it comes to open source, and it's going to be a revolution in my opinion. Like this is not like 3D televisions. It's actually something that's happening.
That's hilarious that you made the 3D television like comparison. I haven't heard that, but yeah, that's exactly it. You don't want it to 3D TV and then it just disappears.
Yeah, there's no, right. I have one. My older television at home. I have two. The oldest has 3D. I've never actually used it. Probably 3 times just to try it, and then it was
Wow.
just. But look at Metaverse. It never even happened.
Yeah, I yes. Poor metaverse, right?
Yeah.
But mm, give it a couple years, right? It might have been a bit too early because we're just now uh, entering into that next phase of history, right? Where are we going
I
to be,
see.
to date myself, if anybody remembers Johnny Mnemonic or old
Oh yeah,
cyberpunk
absolutely.
stuff?
One of my
Yeah,
favorite movies back from the day.
that's that's kind of hopefully not as dystopian, but that type of technology, the interaction with the world is where we're headed, where AR, VR, and interaction with machines that hopefully avoid the uncanny valley is here. And by the time I have grandkids, it'll be fully here. But we probably still won't have a metaverse.
Yeah, that's just not happening because as I've heard this some comedians saying this better than I will, but I don't want something where it's effectively just a software like a login and go work in a virtual life. Like it's a video game, but you have to work.
Yeah,
So
that sounds atrocious.
if I like my job, I like to work, I will still work for if I can. I can find something to do. I like doing it, but I mean, at this point, I'd rather play Call of Duty. It's not super immersive. It's half an hour of good fun, and then I go back to work.
Yeah, and I think to pick on meta a little bit, I think they missed the mark because you'll hear me throughout this conversation because I am all about serving, and I do believe that this technology, generative AI, when implemented properly, can serve.
For
I think
sure, yeah.
Meta should have doubled down on healthcare and elder care, right? Because how powerful is it if you are a octogenarian and you're lonely, lost a lot of friends in your life, and you can connect with somebody across the US, across the world, and re envision yourself outside of your current age? How strong is that to bring people together? Or telehealth visits, right? Things
Oh
of
yeah.
that nature would really shine on that platform. Having meetings, 0%.
Yeah. Or work. Or I still think about the idea that somehow I read somewhere one description was that you will be able to log in and drive your virtual car to your virtual office and meet your office colleagues just like in real life. So maybe I'll drive towards the magical flying car area and just fly around with my flying car, not go work in my virtual cubicle. Like if
Oh, I get sidetracked so easy in the metaverse. I would do the same thing. I'd be like, oh, my flying cars.
yeah, you never show up, but that's because that's not a tool that's not meant to be. Like, why would you do that? It's literally not something that you want to do. I have the ability.
Professionally, yeah, I call those solutions without problems.
Oh, for sure. Well, Shawn, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a wild ride. We went through a lot of things, and especially about generative AI and the power it has. And thank you so much for your deep insight. I think I mean, I'd like to extend probably an invitation to do another segment in a few weeks, just so we can go through a few other topics because there's so much I'd like to ask you again. And
Absolutely. I would be happy to. Well, we could go through meta prompting or something like that if you'd like to see some stuff live. Either way.
also, so this is an official announcement. Look forward for part two. But for now, thank you, Shawn Augenstein from CDW, for joining us today.
Thanks, everybody.
And
Appreciate it.
and for everybody else, thank you, usual. I'll see you next week. Goodbye.